Are you exhausted by spiritual voices that promise everything but leave you feeling more confused than ever? In this episode, we're going to cut through the noise, call out manipulation disguised as magic, and help you reconnect to the only voice that really matters, which is your own.
Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing, and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Welcome to Hope, Healing, and Transformation. My name is Lisa Williams, and today we're going into a conversation about what is the truth. And I had to learn the hard way. Really, it's about spiritual bypassing. It is understanding the truth and the discernment in a world that is constantly creating spiritual noise. And I know that many of you doom scroll. We doom scroll throughout and we see these things that resonate, but should we really be following those particular people? And I'm going to share with you a personal story today that really rocked me to the core and really got me into a place where I didn't know who to trust. That was a really scary moment. And honestly, it was the moment that I said to my husband, "Don't ask me what is going on, but I need you." And he showed up. And that really is where this came from. And so I want to share with you here. This is about having discernment. Discernment is the heart saying yes, even when the world says no. It's our intuition. You know, I'll be honest with you, when I allowed myself to be guided by somebody else, completely guided by someone else because we wanted to do the right thing. It felt right for them. It was important, but there was something inside of me that said, I am not comfortable in making this decision entirely by myself. And so what I did was I sat back and I followed the guidance of other people where really I knew I shouldn't have done. And that isn't right. That isn't wrong. It's just what happened. And what it did is it created a massive learning lesson for me. It created an opportunity of growth, as hard as it was. But I will tell you, it was the best thing that happened. But let's dive into what's really happening today, where there's so much misinformation, there's so much manipulation, and it's all coming at you from social media and from every direction. Because some of you have actually said to me, I don't know what to trust. So we're living in a time where spiritual branding, that become the life that you want, or I can make you a medium in 10 minutes, or whatever it is. The spiritual branding often matters more than the spiritual integrity. That integrity is so important. And what is happening is we are in this emotional part of ourselves. We're in overwhelm, confusion, we've got guilt, we're in comparison, we're having all of these judgments. And when we are not in a good place, when we are struggling, whether we've got grief, we are struggling with a change, we are struggling with empty nesting, our kids are leaving home, we've changed our job, we've changed our car, all of the above that we have to deal with, all of a sudden we are going to try to find something that makes sense. And if you can relate to this, you are not alone. Because in that moment of change, all you're trying to do is try to find something that makes sense. So guess what we do is we start doom scrolling and something crops up and then you start listening to one thing, and that one thing, then you start to follow that person. And that's okay. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. But also hold out a judgment, because as we know, Spirit has a way of showing you what you need at that exact time. What it means is Spirit is aligning you to something that you need to read at that moment. It doesn't mean that you have to follow them or follow everything that they do. This is what I am going to say to you. Start looking at their page. Does it vibe with you? Because honestly, what we have is we're having all of these people that are now starting to come out who are saying they're psychic, saying they're medium, saying they're this, saying they're that. But reality is they're doing it for fame and fortune. They're doing it to create content that is going to suck you in. And before you know it, you're buying their products, you're helping them create their viewers and their followers, and they are making money off it. And I have seen it. I've seen it so much. And I've seen it where people, and I am talking not just people who have a few 100,000 followers. I'm talking people who have got millions of followers. And I have seen it. And I have been part of their intimate lives. And I am like, you know what? This doesn't resonate with me. Because reality is who they are showing themselves out there in the world is not who they are living. And that is the absolute truth. And I witnessed it in my own home. And so I want you to be aware that the story that people share with you is really not the truth. I personally always share my truth. I always share my most intimate moments because I feel that if I share with you and I share my intimate space, what is happening is you're going to feel inspired through my vulnerability, and hopefully it helps you. But I've seen it where these people are sharing stuff that is not right, okay? And I'm going to share with you, all right? If you want to know clarity, not complication or confusion, you're not naive. You're just intuitive. You've got to look at your intuition. You just need that space to open yourself up, to hear yourself again. So if you're wondering, oh my God, I need clarity, everything's confusing, trust yourself. You are intuitive. So when we go through these massive amounts of transition or change, okay, what is happening is you are craving this certainty. We're craving this soothing. We're craving this moment that says, hey, you are safe. You know what you're talking about, and I trust you. In reality, what we're doing is we're finding these people we can latch onto. I want you to look at when you do your doom scrolling. All right. Doom scrolling, when you just scroll mindlessly. Most of the people who are doom scrolling is when they are can't sleep or first thing in the morning. Because what we're trying to do is really escape the reason why we are doom scrolling. Whether that is because, one, I don't want to get up here in the morning. Two, I've had a long day and I can't sleep and I need to relax. There are reasons why we do it. And I want you to look at when you are the most vulnerable. You are the most vulnerable first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Be aware of that, my friends. First thing in the morning and last thing at night. And then what tends to happen is you're starting to see through the algorithms of where you are. Algorithms are in place for a reason. Have you ever wondered why all of a sudden you're talking about, buying a new car? And guess what you get on your phone next? Commercials and advertisements for new cars. But here's the reality. You're in this space of vulnerability. You're in this place of really needing certainty. And then you see somebody with this wisdom. You see this person who's throwing out cards. You see this person who's giving out messages. You're starting to look at them and think, wow, I need to follow those. But question it. I'm not saying that they're wrong. And I'm not saying that they're right. I'm going to say use your intuition to see whether they are working for you. Because what is happening is when we open ourselves up to spirituality, it opens ourselves up to this deeper inner wisdom. But it can also open ourselves to spiritual bypassing and codependence. What that means is that we're actually looking for somebody to depend on in our most vulnerable times. And what's happening, have you ever had that moment where you're driving and you've got the radio loud and you're trying to find this place and you turn the radio down? Okay, that is exactly it. It's like you're tuning into your radio, okay, your antenna, your intuition, and then someone else is yelling at you, all right, directions. Sometimes we can't hear our own words, our own intuition. What we need to really do is trust ourselves and find silence. So we have to realign. I'm going to share with you a vulnerable moment that happened to me. I would like to say I'm really intuitive. I would like to say I'm really intuitive. I think I am, kind of. So this intuition within me was really important. Oh, my voice. I remember opening up an email that was from somebody who I thought had been hacked. And in that moment of them being hacked, I even said, hey, have you been hacked? And guess what? The answer come back and said, well, it seems like it. And I said, well, listen, how did we meet? And that person told me exactly how we met. And I was like, okay, it doesn't sit right. But here's the thing, guys, is I have been in a space where literally everything I owned in that moment was stolen from me. Everything that I own was stolen from me by somebody I knew and somebody I trusted. And so I have been homeless. I have looked in that trash can and thought, wow, that looks edible. I'm going to eat that because I'm absolutely starving. I have also been in that moment where I have had nowhere to go and I have been rescued. So I understand what it's like to be in a very, very dark place. And this person said to me, I'm in a really dark place, but I'm in a foreign country. And so guess what I did is I rescued this person. I allowed them to come in. And I did this because I didn't want anyone to feel exactly how I had felt. I also did it under the guise and the help of my husband. Because if he has a very sharp intuition, and because he said, okay, it's fine, I allowed it to happen. There were telltale signs that was happening. And those telltale signs that were happening kept happening. And for me, I'm like, it's not quite right. So of course I made a conversation. I had a physical conversation. And that was fine. So of course I booked the ticket. And then I gave them clear, concise instructions about what was going to happen. And so I created this email, set them up, put them into a hotel, got them back into America. And as I got them back into America, I said, sit tight in a hotel for 2 days. All right, here's the hotel. Even paid for the hotel. And then what happened? This person missed their flight. And it just didn't sit right for me. And I said, you know what? If I can get that person on the flight today using exactly the same amount of points and it not costing any extra because I've already paid it out, I'll do it. So of course it happened. And it still didn't sit right for me. And so I allowed my husband to go and pick them up from the airport. I allowed them. And I was like, you know what? I am always open to offering someone a place of refuge. And I got pulled in and I got sucked in because I knew this person many years ago. And I got sucked in because I'd also seen who they were many years ago and their millions of followers. I'd seen it. And suddenly this person is now wanting my help. And I was like, okay. And I will be honest with you, as much as we shared a space, there was very little interaction. In my house, there's a whole different area. And I would be in this room. They would be in the complete opposite space of the house. And I had nothing to do with them. And then there were times they would come out and say, wow, your energy. I can see you're doing readings. Wow, I feel your energy. And it was all of this energetic vibe. I can see your energy. Wow, you're so powerful. You're just like me. And there was all of this. I felt like they were trying to sort of like wash me with all of this intellectual talk. And I'm like, you're going to have to dumb it down because I don't understand what you're saying. But in reality, I got sucked in. And I started to listen and I was like, you know what? Still, I'm not 100% sure. I was very, very wary. And somebody else got sucked in. Look at these photographs. Look at this. And the story that was being told. And then when I sat with the story that was being told, of course, I felt bad for them. And I got sucked in. And I got sucked in to the point that I lost myself and I started to question absolutely everything. Because this person was then sharing vulnerable space with me, sharing my home. Chris was coming in and out of the home. He wasn't here most of the time. And I felt very, very isolated in this space until one thing happened. When this person completely manipulated a situation and manipulated it to a point that I became almost paranoid about who was in my house, what was going on, and the fact that people were watching me. It's not a story I'm going to share right now because it's irrelevant, but I'm sharing you it for a reason of how it hit me. And it was at that moment that I went, hold on, wait, this makes no sense. And suddenly, because they were like, you're so powerful, you're just like me, you are a spiritual master, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stroking the ego. What I started to realize is a manipulation to get me exactly where I needed to be. And it was tough because there was one day that I broke down. I did not trust my husband. I did not trust my friends. And there were 3 people that I was bringing in. And then it was one friend, Karen Romine. We all know her from this podcast. And she said, wait, just say to Chris, you need him. And without question, see what he says. So I did. I called him up and my husband looked at me and he went, what is the matter? Because I will tell you, I was a wreck. I couldn't focus my words. I was a mess. I had been manipulated the night before into a position of feeling so vulnerable. And it wasn't anything, bad. It was mind manipulation. And it all started with my son as well, because they brought my children into it. And I think that was where I'm a mom. You don't bring your kids into it. And so at that point, it was when Karen said, ask Chris. So I called him up and I said, hey, babe, don't ask me what has happened, but I need you to come here and I need you to solve this problem. And he just took one look at me and said, book me a flight. And so I booked him a flight. And that man showed up for me, as did all of my friends. And honestly, it took me a long time. And I sat in and something wasn't registering right. Something wasn't right. But here this person was with millions of followers in the spiritual industry who had written best-selling books, who most of you have probably heard of. And I sat there being completely manipulated by this person. And at that point, I still didn't trust it until I did something that I wasn't proud of. And I'll tell you what I did, is I watched through my cameras in my back when this person was on the phone trying to get their next place to stay. I watched them call a parent, and that parent, I heard the conversation through my cameras about the real story that they told their parent. And then I watched how they phoned 15 other people and one person picked up, and then they told them the story that I had been told. And I went, wow, you're doing it again. And it was in that place that I realized, and I felt silly. I felt really manipulated, and I felt it was real to me. And I had been sucked in. And I'm doing this podcast because I recognize that there are people out there that will absolutely follow these people who have thousands and thousands of followers, millions of followers, that they don't know the real person. Their message is great. Absolutely, their message is great. But start looking at how they show up as people, how they show up. Because reality is if their messaging is one thing and yet you see them in a live and it doesn't quite marry, there's a difference. You have to start looking at the content that they're bringing out all the time. Because here's what happens. It's subtle subliminal messages that get that we get given, that all of a sudden you get sucked in, and then we become in a vulnerable space, especially if you're grieving, especially if you are in a place of change, especially if you are holding on to something because you need something in your most vulnerable moments. It's so important for you to listen to your own intuition. It is so important to be guided in that place and just trusting what you feel deep inside of yourself. Because here's the bottom line, is in that moment, I felt like my whole world had been ripped apart. And I felt that I had been absolutely manipulated. And it ripped all open my old wounds. And I realized that I had been manipulated so much. And then good old David Mancini, my PI, I got a background check. And that's when I started to see all of these things on this person's background check. And I went, wow. And did I feel silly? Yes. Did I feel like I was going batshit crazy? Absolutely I did. But it was so important for me to have that learning lesson. So here is my tip for you, is I'm going to say to you, when you are starting to work with one person and you see something at the most vulnerable time because their algorithm gets you, start looking in the cold light of day, at a lunchtime, when you're on your lunch break, whatever it is, you're drinking your coffee, go back to their feed. Watch their live. Watch some other things that they're coming out with. Watch certain things and really check in with your body about how you feel about them. Really check in. Does that align for me? Or did they just so happen have the right message at the right time that I needed to hear? And so thank you. Because when we start following these spiritual influencers and who write books, who create cards, who are creating posts, who are really, really showing up in this space, some of them are showing up with absolute authenticity, and it is not written by ChatGPT. Some of it is really deep from their heart. And there are some that don't know spirituality unless it slaps them in the face, and they're getting it all from ChatGPT, and they are literally saying, what is the algorithm for? What is the SEO coding, SEO optimization for? And they are using the optimization and the algorithms to get you hooked in. Start acknowledging your own intuition. Don't bypass that. It's there for a reason. So let's do a little visualization. Can you see I got a little passionate? Very, very passionate about this because it's very raw. It's very vulnerable. I still have moments thinking, wow, did I do the right thing? How could I have gotten myself so sucked in? But you know what? Sometimes we have to have these check-ins, because guess what it did? Opened up so much more, and it's allowed me to do so much more in a very different way. It's allowed me to start trusting myself even more so. We have these moments in our life that squeeze us. We feel squeezed. We feel like pushback. We feel resistance. And when we break through those resistance, guess what? We go into another level of growth. And that's all it is. That's all it is. You can't get to the higher levels of growth if you don't actually have that squeeze. So remember that as well. All right, my friends. So get yourself comfortable. If you are driving, do not do this. All right, this is your time not to do it. Okay, just sit and listen. But if you are doing this and you have the ability to, just sit back and close your eyes. Just allow your breath just to regulate. Just allow yourself to breathe. And remember that you are the most important person in your life in this moment. And as you allow your body to regulate, as you allow yourself just to calm down, I just want you to ask yourself, what truth am I being asked to remember today? and see what pops up. Could be a vision, could be a thought, could be a feeling. But what pops up about what your truth is being asked to remember today? And anchor yourself in your chair and allow yourself to feel very anchored and supported. And start going back into the rhythm of your breath, into the rhythm of the heart, the natural rhythm of who you are. And I'd like you to think about what feels aligned to you. What feels aligned in this world? What feels aligned to the people that you follow? What feels aligned to who you spend your time with? What feels right? What is your intuition trying to share with you? And just take a quick note of that, a quick mental note. Something to explore when you have a few 5 minutes. And allow yourself just to come back into this place and breathe. Take a moment. Honor yourself in the simple visualization, simple meditation, and allow your breath to honor you. Just take a deep breath in and release it out. And say to yourself, I trust myself. I trust my own wisdom, my own guidance, my own inner thoughts. And just take a breath. And if you want to, you can shake your body and just let that be. So here's a question. I want to ask you, what is one moment where you followed somebody else's truth instead of your own? What was that one moment? And think about that. And I would love you to look at, what did it teach you in that moment? What did it show you? Because there's going to be something that it shows you, but what did it teach you and what did it show you? Because there's a lesson in it all. And if you feel called to, you can journal about it. Journaling is going to help you process it. Trust me, I did a lot of journaling. But start journaling it and share it. If you would love to share that story, please share it on Instagram, on social media, on Facebook, all of the social platforms underneath where you're listening to this. Also, you can hashtag Hope, Healing and Transformation. I would love to see it. I do read the comments, okay? Just allow yourself to be here. And what I want you to understand is discernment is love. It's not judgment. Recognize that the red flags are your intuition's alert system. It is allowing you to be hyper aware. Your intuition is there for a reason. It is your safety. And you already have that inner knowing. You already have that compass. Come back to it every single time. Every single time you make a decision, everything that you do, you are always in the right moment at the right time. And you have to trust that, no matter how difficult it is, because I'm going to say that incident hadn't happened that day, that person would still be here. It was tough. And all I'm going to say to you here is, have this affirmation, and you can say it with me. I honor my truth. I protect my energy. I return to myself. So thank you for watching, everybody. And I want you to realize that your intuition is going to be your biggest help, your guiding light, and honor everything. Look at who you're following. Look at all of this misinformation that is out there, and really start recognizing that sometimes we see these things for the moment. It doesn't mean we have to follow that pathway. We see it for that moment that helps us. So thank you for watching Hope, Healing and Transformation, and I'll see you all next time.
Do you feel a whisper in the back of your mind, like the truth is waiting, but it's hard to find? Well, maybe there's magic in the words she brings. Close your eyes and listen in. Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing, and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you, but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.